Hey, what's up, Hoosier Nation? Great to be back here with you. I'm Rhett Lewis, former IU football player and current color analyst here for the IU Radio Network with my buddy Don Fisher up on the broadcast. Looking forward to getting back to Bloomington here, actually heading out tonight, and I'll be in Bloomington tomorrow morning and ready to rock and roll for the game on Saturday at noon. Excited for this week's edition of IU Football Live. With you, of course, on the Indiana Football X account and on the IU Athletics YouTube page where you can submit your questions and comments. We're going to get to those later in the show. Big matchup here. Playoff mode for IU. 4 opportunities to win games to play a 13th game that starts this week at noon at the Rock. And this team needs your support. And they are ready to rock and roll over the final quarter of this season. And we're going to get into the Wisconsin preview here in a little bit, give you some names to know. But first up, we've got a very special guest with us once again here this week. It's Indiana wide receiver DeQuece Carter, who is here with us, transferring into his first year at IU from Fordham. DeQuece, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing? I'm doing well.
Oh, man. Great to be here with you. Great to chat with a big-time playmaker. As we saw last week, of course, DeQuece and Brendan Sorsby combining for the 90-yard touchdown on that second drive to open the scoring against Penn State. Longest IU passing touchdown since the 90s, since 1993. So glad to get that monkey off the back and get one of those big-time plays in the bag, man. Congratulations on that play. Obviously, the result not ultimately what we wanted, but still plenty to build on from that game. Hey, let's talk about that play here because, I was a receiver at IU in the early 2000s. Didn't play nearly as much as you're contributing right now, but I know that feeling. Like when that call comes in, right? You go out there and line up and you got an idea like, holy smokes, like this could go. Tell me inside that feeling from the moment, Brendan calls the play and what's at stake here.
Right. So we actually get the plays from like the sideline.
Right.
So we got that in, and I was saying, like, during the week, we would run it a little closer to the red zone. So I was shocked when we were backed up on our 10-yard line. He called it, but I wasn't mad. But I had a feeling it might be coming to me because you get those plays where you think, okay, this one's probably coming to me. So,
right.
I lined up, I executed pretty well. Brendan gave me a great ball, and from there it's history.
So there's a lot that goes into that. Into an explosive play like that, right? Obviously, call comes in from the sideline. Everybody's got to be on the same page. Everybody's got to understand, what their responsibility on that given play is. You got to get the look you want too, right? You got to make sure, for that to happen. You've got to execute your route. The offensive line has got to protect long enough for Brendan to make a throw like that. He steps up, by the way, makes a terrific throw in between a couple of defenders, right? Which is really cool to see for a young player. It's got to be an on-the-money throw. You got to catch it. You got to stay in bounds. You got to you got to find your way 90 yards to the house, man. Like, think about all that stuff that lines up to make a play like that happen. It's why they don't happen that often. But just from your point of view, the execution, from play call, then, from Brendan to make that throw. And how the heck did you stay up and stay in bounds?
Hey, that is credit to Coach Wellman, I guess, for all those balancing drills that he has to do in the weight room. But, shout out to the linemen. I don't think they get enough recognition, but for them to hold, because that play actually takes a while. It's kind of a stock and a go type of deal. So, shout out to them. Shout out to Brendan for stepping up in the pocket. And like you said, being able to put it in between those defenders. And, I just got to execute my part. That part is the easy part. So.
And I should mention Omar Cooper for giving that last little shove, right? To give you a little extra time and room to get those final few yards, right?
I kind of got on him a little bit because if you go back and watch the film, he kind of shoved him a little bit forward towards me. A little bit, a little bit. And some of my friends were like, that was blocking the bag. And I was like, hey, no. the ref didn't call it, so I'm not complaining.
That's right. And so, man, that was so much fun to watch that happen live. You're like, oh my God, up in the booth, and Don made a great call. And we really enjoyed, seeing that. And then obviously, later the game, Donovan McCauley, getting his own opportunity on a play like that. Now he was, let's just call it, the degree of difficulty on that one seemed maybe a little bit less. It did seem pretty wide open, no?
Oh yeah. It was wide open. I think they sent a corner blitz and the safety forgot to get over top, and then, he did his deal. So
that's it. Can't get caught from behind on a situation like that. We know Donnie Mac's got some speed to burn back there, and he showcased it getting into the end zone. So that was those two plays were a lot of fun. Like, are those plays, when you look back on them and now as you get through this week in practice, that are like, guys, we just did this against one of the best defenses in the country. Like, this is something we can do week in and week out if we execute the way we know we can.
Oh, no doubt. There's a lot of positivity in the locker room, especially from a tough loss like that.
Yeah.
Looking forward, we got 4 games to potentially play a 5th game, and
Right.
there's a lot of positivity in the locker room, and I'm excited to see what we have for these last 4 games.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. And this is look, obviously a Wisconsin team we'll get into here in just a little bit. But I do want to talk just about your journey here a little bit for folks that just aren't as familiar with how you came to us from a extremely productive career at Fordham. And then jumping up a little bit in the competition level here in the FBS and now in the Big Ten. It takes some time, I'd imagine, to just kind of get your feet underneath you. Playing at this level. What has that journey kind of been like for you? Because it feels like you're really starting to kind of hit your stride with the way that you're contributing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Coach Allen, he talks about always on the rise, and that's something
Yeah.
that I try to think about every day. Coming from a smaller school like Fordham, I knew I would have to step my game up a little bit, and then I was an outside receiver actually at Fordham.
That's right.
For yourself, like a lot of outside routes are a lot different than inside routes. So when I got here, they got 6'5" guys. I'm not a 6'5" guy, so I was like, there's a lot of potential in the slot, and I just took that and ran with it. I've been learning the slot position throughout the whole year. I'm still learning the slot position, just trying to be more familiar, more comfortable with it, and I think it's been showing up on game day. So.
It definitely has, for sure. What are some of the nuances that were kind of different for you when you're in there? You're on, sometimes you can be in there and you get a outside linebacker walked out over top of you, right? Rather than let's say a perimeter corner. So what are some of those differences that you've really noticed?
Yeah, like you said, a lot of times it's more island play on the outside. You're really
Yep.
going to ever see a corner, maybe a safety or rollover, something like that. But when you're inside, you got linebackers, safeties, corners potentially. You got to look for zone. You got to read man, middle of the field open, close. Like there's a lot that goes on in the slot and that I wasn't even aware of until coming here.
And so look, you were a guy who, caught 24 touchdowns in the 2 years before you came to Indiana. So like you were used to being, a one dude, who could always be relied upon. And the relied upon part is definitely still clear here at IU, but is it also been a little bit of an adjustment, trying to find your role in making an impact with this offense, knowing it gets maybe spread out a little bit more in terms of the receptions and the targets and that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, no doubt. And you go back and you think about who was throwing the ball to me at Fordham. It was a guy when I first got there my freshman year. We stuck it out all 4 years and we got that connection. And I think credit to Sorsby, him and I being able to start connecting more. We've only had a small amount of time to back in the summer workouts and all those summer conditioning and throwing afterwards and things like that. It's starting to click a little more now, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean it's been a lot of fun to watch, and obviously the quarterback rotation at times during the season I'm sure is a little bit difficult. On the wideouts, on tight ends, on running backs, trying to find your groove and your rhythm with each guy. And while Taven and Brendan both have their strengths, they can certainly have some differences, as well. And I think,
Definitely.
with Brendan, we definitely see that playmaker gene, that want that he has, before he became a full-time quarterback, to got to be a physical presence in the run game a little bit too. Do you kind of go up to him and be like, hey man, maybe try to avoid some contact
Oh yeah.
here and there. We want to have you around. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no doubt. There was a hit in the Penn State game. I think I ran like a little spot route over the middle, and I was just sitting there waiting for me. He took off. It was covered. And
Yeah.
he took a big shot there, and I was looking underneath his helmet, like, "You all right underneath there?" He popped
Yeah.
right up and turned his head to the sideline. So he's a tough guy, and when you have a quarterback like that, that's willing to take those hits for the team, then it's a lot of respect for him.
No question. The toughness, I think we saw it on display later in the game too, right? After he took a hit and he kind of went into the corner, the Penn State corner over on the left side. Penn State corner gets up holding his shoulder. Brendan's obviously a little shaken after the play, but then I think it was the very next play, comes in and hits Omar on that touchdown.
Touchdown, right? Yeah, and he took a shot there too.
Yeah,
he took a shot on that play. So he's a really tough guy, and he's a bigger guy too. So
that's true.
Kind of a Josh Allen kind of build, maybe.
Yeah,
no comparison there.
I like that.
Yeah.
An inch or two shorter, but but definitely that same toughness and that want to be a playmaker for your offense, I think, is certainly there. tell me a little bit more about your receiver room and, the contributions that you guys have had. Obviously, Cam wasn't able to go last week. So, again, we see more Omar Cooper. He steps up. And you and Donovan McCulley have been a big piece of the offense from the get-go. Cam Perry, when he's in there, can be a separator and a guy that brings the juice. What do you like about this position group in that room that you have with the wideouts?
I think there's a lot of variety in the room. There's a lot of different guys that do a lot of good things. Like KP, he's the backup to me, but he's always pushing me. That at any moment he can be the guy that steps in and makes those plays. His play style is a little different than mine. He's a smaller guy, but he's got speed.
That's right.
I think I have speed, but then he's got
another gear.
Yeah, another gear. He's a smaller guy though, so you got him and I on the inside, and the guys on the outside are great. Definitely contested catchers. I thought, coming from where I was a good contested catcher, but like I said, you got those 6'5" frames out there. You just toss it up to them, and they'll be able to come down with it for the majority of the time. And I think there's still, like you said, Omar. I didn't know how young he was until I got here.
That's right.
I think, he's only like maybe a sophomore or something like that. So he's got a lot of experience to grow on. He's been playing really well, and I don't even think we've seen what EJ can do.
That's right. Just coming back last week.
Yeah, exactly. He had a thumb issue. So he's coming back. He got a little burn last week, and I think we'll see a lot of him these last 4 games.
I'm excited about that, certainly, because we didn't really see him since the Indiana State game when he got banged up. And so it's great to have him back in the lineup and available as just another target out there, another big-time playmaker for sure. With what he's capable of. And then just kind of looking at the run game portion of things, it certainly feels like that aspect of this offense has taken off here in the last couple of weeks, really, finding a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more efficiency. As a wideout, and look, I know I relish the opportunity to create, some extra space and do my job in the run game. I know you guys do too. I mean, I think I lost track of some of the pancakes that we were seeing out there with the guys on the perimeter. When you're getting those quick shots out to, whether it was J. Lou or whether it was you, on those quick throws and allowing those guys to kind of block for a while, right, to create some extra space to go make plays. Do you guys take that? Is that a point of pride, for you in that room to kind of be a force in the run game as well?
Oh yeah, our Coach Tucker, he says, he doesn't really care about any of the touchdowns, the crazy catches. He keeps a highlight tape of guys, pancake blocks, things like that, being real gritty. That's the word we chose actually this week.
Gritty.
It was grit. So on the outside, the perimeter guys, we take a lot of it takes a lot of trust out there, and
yeah, definitely, and it's fun to watch too because. When you can spring a guy, I mean, it gives some extra juice, I think. When you can spring a guy for a 10+ yard run, and those things start to wear on defenses, as as well. So speaking of defense, let's talk about Wisconsin here just a little bit before we let you get back out on your Thursday evening here, DQ. I got some playmakers in that secondary now. Ricardo Hallman, Big Ten leader in interceptions. Hunter Wohler is a dude who makes plays all over the place. They also kind of do some unique things in terms of the way they position players and the way they run out there. From whether it's 3-3-5, and they can give you some different looks. What does Wisconsin, do you think, in totality, kind of present from a challenge perspective defensively?
Yeah, like you said, they have a lot of complex looks on the back end. A lot of two invert. Their man is a little different than what we've seen. They kind of like to funnel everything to the middle and don't let you allow those hole shots on the side. So hopefully we can get going on the ground at first and then take some shots over top. They got a lot of 3 high kind of look. So it might be kind of difficult to get those shots going at first, but if we can get that safety to step down in the run fit, we'll be able to take some shots over top.
And that's awesome. And love hearing that aggressive mentality, right? And because, it's time to let it rip. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that last question that I have for you then is just a little bit about the mentality of this team now with 4 games to go, knowing what's at stake here, right? Knowing that the unforced errors can't happen, right? You got to take care of your own business. And then you got to go out there and let it rip. And to me, like that, this feels like, hey man, let's have some fun with this here. Final 4 to play a 5th. Like, is that kind of the mentality? Is there a vibe that way with this team and the way that you're approaching, this game obviously is the one that really, the only one that matters at this point.
Like I said before, there's a lot of positivity in the locker room. Yeah. Guys are juiced up and like you said, kind of just got to let it rip. I think we've been holding back. Defense will have a good game and offense might struggle. Offense might have a game, defense might struggle. Special teams, you throw that in there. So I think it's real time for all three phases to come together and us to really have that game. And I think you might be seeing that on Saturday.
Let's put that one together, huh? We got 57 minutes of it, pretty much for the most part, against Penn State. We'll get 60 minutes against Wisconsin. That'll turn into a dub. DeQuece, man, it's been a lot of fun getting to know you here this year a little bit. Look forward to seeing you in Bloomington on Friday and then at the game on Saturday, man. Thanks again for being with us here on IU Football Live. Really appreciate it, bud.
Thanks for having me.
All right. DeQuece Carter, everybody, with us on this episode of Indiana Football Live. So, look, as we were talking about there with DQ, Wisconsin is a really good football team. They have a really good coach in Luke Fickell, and he's got a great staff. But things are a little bit different for them. Obviously, they started the year with Tanner Mordecai, a transfer quarterback from SMU, threw a ton, who threw for a ton of yards, a ton of production at SMU. And then comes up to Wisconsin as Luke Fickell decides to bring Phil Longo in as offensive coordinator, who's certainly known, for having some air raid principles to the way that he wants to operate, which is certainly a bit of a change from, what Wisconsin has traditionally been known for, which is more of a power, kind of ground attack. But make no mistake, through the first, 9 weeks of this season, Wisconsin did not abandon the run game. Braylon Allen is still one of the best running backs, in the country and certainly in this conference, but he gets banged up. So Mordecai gets banged up a couple of weeks ago. In comes Braden Locke, young player at quarterback that steps in and has done a nice job. And then Braylon Allen goes down late in the first half against Ohio State in a really hard-fought competitive game that Wisconsin had at Camp Randall last week against Ohio State. So now you're kind of wondering, all right, we got a backup quarterback. Maybe Braylon Allen is unable to go this week. Jackson Aker maybe comes in, a guy Indiana's seen in the past. So there's definitely some injury things to deal with, some preparation things. I'm sure the coaching staff has had to deal with not knowing exactly who's going to be out there and how, Phil Longo and this offensive staff and Coach Fickell might adjust their scheme to then deal with some of those injuries, which is just kind of one of those things sometimes you got to kind of understand and kind of be flexible with on the fly. So excited for that, to see that kind of chess match unfold because, certainly have every confidence in our defensive staff to adapt and thought it was a heck of a game called by Matt Guerrieri, defensive play caller, co-defensive coordinator, and safeties coach last week at Penn State. And just thought he had it rolling against the Nittany Lions and certainly put some hits on Drew Aller, forced him to throw his first interception of the season, which was huge. So just overall, lot to build on when those two units are out onto the field. And then, on the other side, as we were talking about with DQ, Ricardo Hallman has been a terrific story for Wisconsin. I think Coach Luke Fickell said he kind of, emerged him in the spring, just kept showing up, kept making plays. And lo and behold, that's what he's been doing, this entire season. Obviously had a big pick six a couple of weeks ago, has 5 interceptions on the year. Hunter Wohler is one of those, kind of chess piece players in the secondary that they can kind of use all over the place, makes a ton of plays, is big in the run game, and obviously, holds up in the pass game as well, and a ton of really good players in their front and with that linebacker core, big physical dudes. So definitely a challenge, but one that I feel like, based on what we saw against Penn State, for IU this last week, there's every opportunity to go out and win this game. And you take out some of those critical mistakes, as Coach Allen calls them, the cats, crimes against the team. And, we might be talking about a totally different story. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, and you can't erase those mistakes. But I think it does say, hey, we can point to this. If we take care of our business on Saturday at the Rock at noon Eastern time, you're going to have an opportunity, to be in this game and to make a play and to win this game and then to go on a stretch here and go on a run. Feel like that's kind of what that Penn State game left me building towards. And I know that's what these players and these coaches are working towards this week against Wisconsin. So really looking forward to that and looking forward to this opportunity for Indiana. We have the luxury of looking, beyond this game. And I know nobody else involved in the program is. It is a one-track mind. They're focused on Wisconsin and taking care of business against the Badgers. But beyond that, Illinois, Michigan State, Purdue, all great opportunities. And those are teams that, feel the same way, when they see IU on the schedule. But these are really 4 really good opportunities for this football team to generate some real momentum and to still keep their goals of playing in the postseason alive. It starts this week. All right. So I'm going to be up there in the booth with my buddy Don Fisher on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll begin our pregame show. Game, of course, kicks off at noon, and you can check the radio broadcast out on the Varsity app from Learfield. Also available for you on SiriusXM channel 195. That's the IU radio call. And then, of course, on all of the IU radio network stations as well. Game on TV on BTN, and look forward to seeing everybody at the Rock. It's time to support this team. Stand up. I know there's going to be some tributes to Bob Knight. And just lastly, before we leave, Bob Knight's one of the reasons I came to Indiana. I used to sit on the couch with my dad when I grew up in New Orleans. My dad was an IU alum, and we'd sit on Saturday mornings and watch basketball, or Saturday afternoons and watch IU basketball when it was on national TV. And if not for that interest and for that impact that he had on students that went to IU, on people who love the Hoosiers, don't know if I'd have been as interested in Indiana. And so certainly glad that wasn't the case, and that I got a chance to watch, the Hoosiers when he was leading them as head coach, and got a chance to then come to Indiana and realize what a great experience it was. So thoughts and condolences out to Coach Knight's family, to the IU basketball family, to Mike Woodson, and everybody. And I know there's going to be, some tributes at Memorial Stadium with the helmet decal with the guys on the field. And man, it's going to be a cool scene. Be a part of it. And if you can't, join us on the radio. We'd love to have you. So thanks for being with us here on another episode of Indiana Football Live. Reminder, we'll be back with you on Monday for another episode of Under the Hood with IU Football, presented by your Central Indiana Ford dealers, where we'll talk with a member of the IU coaching staff, hopefully about an IU win over Wisconsin. All right, everybody, thanks again for being with us, and we'll catch you next week. Let's go Hoosiers.